When Cannibal opened in July 2015, it debuted as one of the most interesting and unconventional roller coasters the world had ever seen. It immediately captured the attention of thrill seekers to consider Farmington, Utah as their next must-visit destination. Lagoon was really just a family park. They only had 2 roller coasters that could be considered extreme. But neither of them would compare to what was to come, as Cannibal would tower over Lagoon with its 200+ foot tall elevator shaft building and its 197 foot tall drop at a staggering 116 degrees. Cannibal debuted as the steepest roller coaster in America and is now the second steepest, but having done both this and TMNT Shellraiser, which has a 121.5 degree drop, I would argue this feels steeper as you start from level track and then slowly duck underneath yourself, plunging down towards the ground at a much bigger height. Cannibal is big, it is fast, and it is scary. In the theme park desert that is Utah, Lagoon is your only option for thrill rides, and so much of the public had never seen anything like this before. To this day, it's the biggest roller coaster in all of Utah, as well as the largest ride ever built by Art Engineering. This is a German-based company that worked alongside Lagoon to manufacture this attraction. Back in 2011, Lagoon debuted a ride called Bombora. It was designed in-house by the park itself, with the track manufactured down the road at Intermountain Lift, and the trains built by Art Engineering. Following the success of that project, Lagoon would once again enlist in the help of Art Engineering to have a much bigger role in their next attraction. The park would still do the design, and Intermountain would yet again produce the track. They're known for producing some of the smoothest tracks in the industry, doing work for S&S Worldwide as well as Premier Rides. And the advantage to being so close is that they could build the track sections and just throw them on the truck, arrive the same day. They can make the track sections larger. That means less connections and therefore a smoother ride. Art Engineering would also create brand new vehicles for this attraction, inspired by the ones that we see on Wicked in the same park. This, however, would have an additional row seating 12 passengers instead of 8. To this day, it's a one-of-a-kind attraction and one of the most unique roller coasters in America. Lagoon was one of my home parks for about 5 years, so at this point in time, I've ridden Cannibal over 80 times. I'm very familiar with the nuances of this attraction, so in this review, I'm going to discuss the ride in detail. We're going to go through the layout, discuss the theme, and overall what you can expect from this monstrous attraction. And your experience with Cannibal really begins long before you step foot into Lagoon. This is the first attraction you see as you pull up. It is clearly visible from I-15 running north past Salt Lake City. It quickly became the new symbol for the park. It's positioned on the left-hand side of the front entrance, originally replacing a Top Eliminator dragster attraction, taking a couple years to build at a cost of $40 million US. It was no small feat, and there was so much mystery surrounding what exactly this ride would be. That would later become a running theme with Lagoon when they built their next big roller coaster, Primordial, next door. Cannibal would spontaneously open that summer of 2015 immediately to rave reviews. Guests praised the attraction for its comfortable ride experience, impressive presentation, and fulfilling ride experience. The coaster was smooth, well-paced, and included sensations that you can't get anywhere else. And all those traits still stand to this day. As you approach the ride entrance, you're greeted with this huge sign and these 2 lion statues on either side that actually originally came from the Capitol building in downtown Salt Lake. Cannibal doesn't have much of a queue, it's pretty much just a ramp into the station, so therefore the line is always stretching down the pathway, but it's a little deceiving. It actually moves really fast, but it might look longer than it actually is. My usual benchmark is if the line ends by Samurai, it's about a 30-minute wait. The capacity and overall throughput on Cannibal is very impressive. The attraction does not have bins on the ride platform, so all of your bags and loose items have to be put in a locker. They are completely free, located just out front, and the station is dual load, and there's a lot of employees on platform. Just a simple lap bar, no seatbelt, you just fasten in and go. Because of the quick pace, Cannibal also does not have preferred seating. You can certainly request a row, but that doesn't guarantee you'll get it. It also has stadium seating, so if you're sitting in the back, you can still clearly see the view out in front of you. There is a single rider line. I don't always recommend it though, because you still have to wait in the regular line to get to it. So what happens is most people just stay in the regular line because they've already waited this long, might as well wait out the last 5 minutes. Whereas if it was just a separate line to begin with, maybe they would have been fine sitting separate and filling those empty seats. But as a result, most of the time the single rider line is completely empty, and that's unfortunate. I hope one day they change their minds. In my opinion, it's currently a bad design. I hate seeing so many empty seats. The station itself, though, has a nice ambiance. So you have these drums and this like nice theme going for it. Every time a train dispatches, you hear a horn sound effect. I'm a big fan of the operator booth on the left-hand side. It looks like a medieval cauldron. It's crazy. You have this huge painting on the far back wall, these big flaming skulls in the jungle. Definitely sets a nice tone. The vehicles themselves here are very bare bones. Like, it is nothing fancy. The train doesn't even have like a fiberglass front to make it aesthetically pleasing. It's like they only used what was necessary. And everything appears bolted together. Like, I don't see very many welds, so I imagine that this is one of the contributing factors to why this ride is very reliable. It just seems like a very robust train. This thing's almost never down, which is important when you get as many crowds as Lagoon does. Those who have been to Drayton Manor might also recognize these lap bars. This is the same design that they brought over to Shockwave, now The Wave, when they did their sit-down trains as a conversion for their stand-up. It's a very thin and flat lap bar. Overall, I like it, but do be aware, it does have the tendency of coming down further on your legs as the ride progresses. From the station, a curtain will rise out in front of you, you hear that horn, and you take a slow right-handed turn into the dark elevator shaft. You have these big ram statues on either side holding up a chain. The music's pounding and your blood is rushing. There used to be a projection at the base of the lift hill out in front of you of one of those flaming skulls. I haven't seen it work in years, which is unfortunate because I actually really did like that effect. But feel free to look up because from here you can stare straight up at that elevator shaft. Looking over 200 feet in the air, it makes you realize just how huge this tower is. This is a dual elevator lift, which is perfect for capacity, so one lift is at the bottom while the other's at the top, and they pass each other midway. And before you know it, you're at the top. Normally there's another curtain closed that will then open to reveal the view. That's not always the case though. It is quite a sight though, looking out at I-15, Farmington, you can see the mountains in the distance, and you just slowly slide forward. The perfect build of anticipation. You can't see the track out in front of you, it just ends. And after a brief pause, you then slowly start to roll forward, creeping over the edge, and then ducking underneath yourself, you go pretty much upside down, again 116 degrees. From a flat section, that makes the drop feel steeper, in my opinion, than Takabisha or TMNT Shellraiser, which are the record holders. On those rides, you're already starting at a pretty steep angle, so the rotation into the drop isn't as severe. You'll plunge down to the ground inside this mess of theming, these huge like rock statues, really impressive stuff. You hit that max speed of 72 miles per hour and then shoot up into your first inversion, which is an Immelman. Almost starts off as a stall. The rotation out of the element happens a lot later than some Immelmans you'd see on like a B&M coaster. So you're fully inverted and then you roll out of it. You then suddenly rise back up, now into a dive loop. You kind of get thrown up into this element first before rotating over towards the ground. This is one of the only moments that you can actually see from the main pathway as you're approaching Cannibal. That's kind of weird about the positioning of this ride. It faces the interstate, so it's a great view from the parking lot. But when you're actually in the park, you're seeing the backside. It feels like the entrance should be over where the side view is next to the go-karts. This view you're seeing here is just taken on this small, narrow pathway that a lot of people don't even know exists. Which is a shame because that's also where you see some of the most impressive theming. They actually did a fantastic job decorating this attraction, and you'll notice some of it while you're on the ride, but the only time you really get that grand vista view of like the waterfall and the rockwork is as you're driving in. From the dive loop, you'll pass over a small little bunny hop. There's a slight bit of airtime here. There is a trim on this element, but really all it's doing is mitigating your speed. So it like prevents you from going faster than you need to because you are descending down. So it's just a brief moment of control and then you roll over into this like cutback maneuver. It's really an overbank curve that like it kind of feels like an inversion. Cannibal is one of those weird rides that there isn't really a clear answer of how many times it goes upside down. I think you can make an argument for this ride having 3 inversions, 4 inversions, or 5 inversions. The Immelman and dive loop are undisputable. Some people might count this maneuver as an inversion, and then the big finale, the Lagoon roll, it's one element, but you go upside down twice, kind of like a Cobra roll. So I count the Lagoon roll as 2 inversions, but if you only count an Immelman dive loop Lagoon roll, then that's 3. Now, I mentioned that Cannibal is a pretty smooth ride. I will say that this like cutback maneuver and the turn into the mid-course brake run is one of the only times where the coaster sounds a little clunky. And I don't think it's the track. I think it's got to do with the train design. It's not a big deal. It honestly might be more of an audible thing than a physical thing, but in no way is it rough. I wouldn't call it as smooth as like Colossus though, because that's some Schwarzkopf magic. Incredible that thing's been operating since the 80s and is as smooth as it is. But this mid-course is on the back side of the tower, just a brief moment where you slow things down, allows you to run multiple trains on the layout, which Cannibal absolutely does. Thanks to that dual load and dual lift system, as soon as you hit the mid-course, another train is allowed to drop off the top. As a result, this is a very kinetic attraction. There's always a train going. And this Lagoon roll coming up really is something. Some of the craziest hang time in the entire world. You start rotating over, just hanging on your side, and then flip back the other way as you're passing over the top of this waterfall. With the lap bar, you are truly dangling over, and it intimidates people. Some love it, some hate it. I really like it, and maybe it's because it's the only one of its kind in the world, hence the name, the Lagoon Roll. It's just so unique and different. And Cannibal's got one more element to follow, a 450-degree helix, so more than one full rotation all the way around. For the most part, I think this maneuver is just kind of whatever, but I do start to gray out towards the end of the helix as you transition into the brake run. And I like this little directional switch, and you pass through the waterfall. You can actually get a little bit misted here. This waterfall is about 60 feet tall. It's cool how you just thread right past it. And this brake run is covered to take you back into the station. Just under 2,800 feet of track. But based off of the ride time, you'd feel like it was more than that. Cannibal is a very satisfying and fulfilling ride experience. But most hypercoasters have at least 3,000 feet of track, oftentimes even 4,000 or 5,000 feet of track. This is a very compact hyper, and really the only other ride I could think of that I could even compare it to, I guess, would be the Schwerteskarnen at Hansa Park in Germany. They both have a similar mentality of an enclosed lift hill, a super steep drop, and then a very compact layout, but Karnen is much more intense and overall stays lower to the ground. Cannibal has a lot of big elements, and you go fast, but it's not whippy. It's overall not a super intense roller coaster. Colossus the Fire Dragon is half the height, and is by far the most intense coaster in the park. You would expect this ride to be more intense than it actually is, and so in that way, Cannibal is a little deceiving. It's big, tall, and scary, but it doesn't rip your face off. It's not insane in the way some roller coasters of a similar size are. Therefore, this ride has a wider appeal. Cannibal is a people pleaser. It always has a long line, maybe not the longest line in the park just because the capacity is pretty good, but it's a coaster that everyone wants to do, especially when it has a 48-inch height requirement. I've seen little kids on this ride, and I'm continually blown away because when I was their age, I don't think I would have ridden this. But for a park that really caters to families, I think they overall found a great balance with a big, crazy thrill ride that isn't too insane. You get off and say, hey, I really enjoyed that. It wasn't too much for me. The scariest part is by far that anticipation before you rotate into the drop, and after that, you're just smooth sailing. And as a big roller coaster enthusiast, I thoroughly enjoyed this attraction. Even if it doesn't place in my top coasters overall, it's still my favorite ride in the park and a must-do for enthusiasts. So for its overall score, I'm giving Cannibal a 9 out of 10. Really a neat, different style attraction than what we're used to, and it's very on brand for this very quirky and unconventional theme park. So you can let me know down in the comments below, if you've ridden Cannibal, what were your thoughts on it? Do you agree with the points that I brought up? Do you think there's anything I missed? Post all that down below, and if you're new to Coaster Studios, please go check out the Coaster Reviews playlist, full of attraction reviews from all around the world, all organized in alphabetical order. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.